What's up guys, Houndish here, and today, surprise, new exotic quest for Season of Defiance. And so, in the video today we're going to break down how to obtain the Vexcalibur, and this is a special ammo glaive, not another heavy, and of course this is part of Season of Defiance. So looking at the weapon real quick right here, it's actually a pretty good one. And we can see it fires a spread equipped with a quick draining shield, and blocking damage with your shield gradually bestows void overshields to yourself and nearby allies. On top of that though, we deal additional melee damage while protected by an overshield, and defeating targets with melee final blows while the overshield is active will refresh it. So you can see from some of the gameplay right here, when we've got energy to shield with the weapon, incoming damage is giving us that overshield, and then we're getting that bonus on all of the melee damage. It appears to be a pretty strong weapon on first impressions right here. Obviously this isn't a super in-depth exotic review, but a quick look at the weapon initially. In terms of how to obtain it though, assuming you own Season of Defiance, it actually starts in the open world in the European Dead Zone. So if you head to the Gulch in the EDZ, and as soon as you spawn in, hop across the gap right here, and on the cliff you'll see this kind of Vex Oracle looking thing. If you run through there are a series of them that we need to collect. So the next one is down below underneath the bridge. And if you follow the route on screen, we head to the left hand side from the bridge, and then jump up onto the right hand side, all the way up onto the cliff, and you'll see that there is another Vex Oracle that we can run through. Once you've got that one, head back into the kind of open area, and right in the middle out here you can see there is another Oracle, and immediately behind that you'll spot the fifth one. We just need to kind of run through them, tagging them almost. Obviously we do have a time limit that we can see on this side of the screen, but then the very final one is right in the middle of this sign over on the far side of the location. Once you've grabbed all of those, you'll see simulated cave access code pops up, and if you look up in the sky, we can see the Vexy stuff floating around right there. So head in that direction, and there's actually a cave that you can spot right here. Pretty easy to spot because there are these kind of red Vex nodes on the wall next to it. And so we simply head into the cave, and there's this kind of dome right here where we're able to start the exotic mission. It says season pass required for me, but I think that's just because I wasn't the fire team leader. So from this location, we can start the new exotic mission. And from there, we're taken into the Vex network. Things get a little bit tricky in a couple of areas inside of this mission, but initially to start the mission, descend through the tunnels that you can see right here. It took us a moment to find this, but we initially activated this green node that you can see up high in one of the first rooms. I'm not sure if this is actually part of the mission and finding the next part of the route, or whether it's perhaps for exotic catalysts for the weapon later on. But following this, if you go to the very lowest point in this zone, which is a big kind of loop, there's a tiny little gap in the floor down in the Vex radial area, and by heading through here we'll be able to continue on into the mission. Now the majority of the mission is fairly self-explanatory and is full of a lot of combat, but there's a recurring mechanic in different sections of this mission. So in the first area right here, you'll notice a spire, and in a few different places in this zone, various symbols will pop up, which are essentially a code that we'll need to input. And in a couple of the encounters, we need to input codes numerous times. So you can see there's one that I spot right here, which is square, square, diamond, diamond. And that literally means we need to shoot the symbols that appear next to the spire. So you can do multiple symbols each time they pop up, or you can wait for the symbols to show up multiple times. And I simply need to shoot square, square, diamond, diamond. And so this is going to be much easier in a team when you've got the support of teammates taking out the Vex. And essentially each of the encounters that uses this mechanic will have you input the codes 3 or 4 times in order to proceed to the next encounter. So given the example of the final access code in this area, you can see it's diamond, square, diamond, square, square. And once again, as long as you shoot those symbols at the spire in that particular order, you'll be able to progress to the next step. After that, simply follow the directions that the mission gives us, and the next key encounter for the mission is where we need to gather Vex data and take shelter. And so in this section, we essentially need to kill Vex, pick up the purple motes, and bank them into the spire in the middle of the room. It'll give us a different amount of motes we need to collect each time, so most of the time it's 10 motes. Once 10 have been collected and banked, it will say take shelter, which basically means to drop into the circle in the middle of the room. And when the timer runs out, it will teleport us back to the room, and we can do damage to the data nullifier. And so there are a handful of rounds in this encounter as well. Obviously, once you've done enough damage to take out the boss, it will allow us to proceed to the next encounter, where again, basically, we're just following the route that the game gives us until we get to the final boss fight. And this final boss fight is with Brachion from back in the Pyramidion Strike, and we're able to do damage until the boss's shields come up, and then we have to repeat the code mechanic from the first encounter. There are 3 potential times that you can do this in each of the boss phases, and in the room right here you can see the top left of the room will show the first set of symbols we need. Once those have been inputted successfully, we get another damage phase, and then the top right of the room will show the symbols we need. Again, once we've inputted all of those successfully, we get a third damage phase, and portals will open at different phases right here once you've done enough damage, and we can continue on to the next part of the boss fight. Once you take Brachion down, we'll get an object that we need to return to the war table in the helm, so simply head back to the helm, and at this point we'll be given the Vexcalibur Glaive. It's a pretty cool quest overall, and a very cool weapon. There is actually a secondary quest once you've obtained the weapon though, and the first step of that is to defeat Vex with Vexcalibur, and presumably this is going to open up crafting options for the weapon. When we first get it, we can extract a pattern, and there will be 3 different catalysts that can be obtained for this, which are refits much like we've seen previously with things like Revision 0. So there's the immovable refit, the robber refit, and the feedback refit, which we'll ultimately get hold of by completing that secondary quest. And I'm sure repeated runs of the exotic mission with other objectives, but we'll cover those at a later date, guys. For today, that's everything we have to round up, so I hope this introduction to the exotic quest and the weapon has been useful. If it has, a rating below really does help us out on the channel. And be sure as well to get subscribed to see more Destiny content. But otherwise, I hope you guys have an awesome day.